at Thomson on abortion. Again, this is not a comprehensive review. That was what we did in class. These are just a few remarks to point you, I think, in the right general direction. Uh, this is not exactly what I was looking for, so let me write something down. I think if you can answer this question, you're okay. If you're not familiar with this sort of question, you were totally zonked out and were not paying attention in class. How can Thomson argue that abortion is morally defensible if she concedes at the outset that the fetus is a person? First of all, you got to see why that concession was seen to point to an anti abortion position. Step number one. Step number two is how it is that she can concede that the fetus is a person and still argue that at least some abortions are morally permissible. I think the clue is that's I think, an implication of what she says. Remember that much of her discussion is really about the justice. And if we say, for instance, that abortion or a particular abortion then there's no injustice without the violation of a right. So if we ever accuse anybody of having committed an injustice, I think then we have to be able to say also specify what right or whose rights they violated, and which rights they are, because there's no injustice without a violation of right. So really, the question is to say that an abortion at least is unjust. Um, we ask this question. May seem like a weird question. It is a weird question, but it makes sense. I mean, that is, we may presume that whenever anybody's killed, that their rights have been violated necessarily, but according to Thomson, that is simply not true. The fetus as a person, the fetus as a person has a right to life. That is, if you're a person, you have a right to life. She's conceded that the fetus is a person. That's key, right? So the right not to be killed is not a blanket right. There are exceptions, I guess. You don't have the right not to be killed. You have the right not to be killed unjustly. So, um, when would an abortion be unjust killing? Well, I mean, we're talking about rights here, and really the question is whether an abortion is unjust. Um, every person has the right to life, but they don't have the right to absolutely everything they might need to stay alive, unfortunately. So, the question is, does a fetus have a right to the continued use of the mother's body? She doesn't answer that question. That is, she doesn't give a criterion for when you can answer it, but that's the key question that emerges. As I said over and over again in class. The only other issue, well, there's other issues. There's a lot of issues. You should read it. Uh, there'll be questions about the unconscious violinist, about the expanding baby, about the two brothers and the box of chocolates, maybe even about people seeds. But one other, another, not just the other, but another issue is the issue of decency, which she brings in towards the end. And for her, I suppose she started the discussion as being a discussion about justice, and she kind of ends the discussion as being a discussion about decency when it comes to abortion. She doesn't actually prove that any abortion would be unjust. She only says that if there's an instance of a pregnancy where the fetus actually has a right to the use of the mother's body, then it would be unjust to deny it that right, that is, to abort it. But she never gives a criterion for when you would determine that. So, it could be that there's no such thing as an unjust abortion under her way of thinking. She doesn't say that, but it's certainly possible. But I think that she would say there are indecent abortions. Maybe late term abortions done for capricious reasons, but even that's hard to really make that anything else but a judgment call. That is, she does think that there probably are indecent abortions, even if they couldn't be said to be unjust. I mean, there's something indecent, even if all the chocolates belong to you. There's something indecent about not sharing them with a little kid and making them cry. It may not be unjust if the kid had no right to any of the chocolates, but it certainly would be, maybe indecent, too strong a word, but something to that effect.